Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. So I'm sure I'm not alone in this when I say this, but when you make a video and sometimes after you upload it and it's complete and you look and say, man, I wish I would have said that, and I needed to say that, I need to tie that in a little bit better. So this is gonna be a continuation of my video that I made a few weeks ago about can you actually build a dynasty, a sustainable dynasty in this day and age of college football, right? With NIL, transfer portal, amongst other particular things, right? And so I was just looking and I saw that Jackson Smith-Njigba has declared that he is not playing in the semifinal playoff game against the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, many people that argued or petitioned for expansion of playoffs, their thing is that, well, the reason that guys are sitting out is because guys they know that they're not playing for a championship, so they're not going to play in a meaningless bowl game. Well, Jackson Smith-Njigba said, hold my beer. I'm not only am I going to sit out a bowl game, I'm about to sit out the semifinal bowl game. I'm gonna sit that game out, right? There's nothing meaningless about this bowl game. I'm gonna sit this one out. Now, I'm not gonna say this is going to forecast, things to come, but I do think that it does bring up an interesting point, because now you have NIL at play. And we have NFL guys and NBA guys who have maybe dealing with injuries, because I'm not here to say that Jackson Smith-Njigba did not want to play in this particular game, but from my understanding that he was dealing with some hamstring issues. So with knowing that, we have to think back to say, well, what about guys who have played in championship games or were playing in games that were dealing with injuries, that had they had NIL money, would they have gone? Would they have pushed it? Would they have tried to go out and play in those particular games, right? Meaningless or non-meaningless game, right? So this will be interesting to see moving forward with the 12-team expansion. Will guys who may not be 100%, will they want to give it a go? Or I could be absolutely, completely wrong about this. But I do think that you do have that at play. Now, getting back to what I said as a continuation of things, right? I think back to this, I was listening to Bomani Jones a few years ago. And well, not even a few years ago, I think it was last year. And he was talking about Derek Stingley, right? And he was talking about how when Derek Stingley got to campus at LSU, by year's end, if Derek Stingley was not the best defensive player in the SEC, he was in the top 5. And he was a true freshman. Now, of course, his sophomore and junior year were plagued by, injuries and things like that. He, sat out, try to get himself, together. And I thought about that and I said, man, that really coincides with what I said. And play out a completely different scenario. Let's take this to the highest level, right? What is one of the biggest issues that NFL players have with NBA players? Well, for one, the biggest issue is the contracts, guaranteed contracts, right? And an NBA player could sit out an entire year and won't miss a check whatsoever, because that money, that money is fully guaranteed for the, for the most part. So why would I not think that particular dynamic could not start rearing its head? Because this is another thing that I think about. How do I know that particular mindset could not start rearing its head in college football? Right? Because we've already seen that guys are not being punished for playing a year and a half. And when we talk about a career in totality, you were on campus 3 years, but on-field play is only a year and a half. So, whereas when you have a college basketball player, all they have to do is be removed from high school for 1 year, and they don't even have to go to college, right? So, and then nobody punishes them. They go to the league. Now, I'm not petitioning and campaigning that, a high school football player should play 1 year of college and go to the NFL. But the reality of the situation is you are having guys who, in reality, are playing the equivalent of a year and a half of college football, and they are going to the NFL. Now, of course, they've been in the program for 3 years. They've been lifting, on an eating regimen, a lot of things like that. So their body is getting acquiesced to the physicality of, playing against grown men. But this NIL is going to make it easy for guys to maneuver their way through these 3 years and go to the NFL. And I think that this Jackson Smith-Njigba thing could open up a door where it's like, look, man, because Jackson, I don't even know how many games he played this year, right? I don't even know how many games he played. And obviously, what would be his freshman year, if my memory corrects, it was like, that's Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson territory. And even going into last year, that was Olave and Wilson. And Jigba came on late. And we know his breakout game against Utah. And so now this year he hasn't played that much. And now it's been the Marvin Harrison Jr. show. So I think that if I'm hurt, if I'm somewhat injured, if I'm not 100%, I got NIL money, I might not push it. And as a college football fan, we'll be jealous and say, man, you shouldn't do that, man. You need the guys are getting soft. They shouldn't play through that. But let's take a little trip down memory road. I'm gonna get out y'all way. I don't want to make this video any longer than it has to be just by regurgitating the same talking points. But when I watch Undisputed and I listen to Shannon Sharp talk about the Hall of Fame, and one of the things that he talk about is that some of the guys that he see there that are bent over, slumped, walking with limps and stuff like that. And you can look at some of the NFL owners and they're kind of elated, not because of the injury, but they're elated because they're like, look, I'm not responsible for the medical. I'm not responsible for their medical bills. And how, Deion Sanders talked about how the NFL gave him so much trouble when he tried to apply for health benefits, I think about his foot surgery. But he said that MLB basically bent over backwards and gave him, what it was that he needed. And we know Deion Sanders from playing football. We know Deion played baseball, but prime time is football, right? And so a lot of times we talk about a lot of these kids are not getting good counsel. They're not getting good talk from people. But in this day and age, man, you can reach out and talk to people, man, and you may have some guys that tell them like, look, man, they don't care about you, man. Do what's in your best interest. If your hamstring is bothering you, if you got a quad bothering you, an oblique, your knee don't feel the way it is, as long as if you got some NIL money, preserve that and try, if you got enough film out there, and get to the league, man. Get to the league. Because if you make it 3 years there, you got the benefits that you need. You go 3 years of college, them benefits, they're not lifetime benefits. You see what I'm saying? But just let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. Like I said, I'm not forecasting that guys will start sending out meaningful bowl games, but I do think it's interesting that Jackson Smith-Njigba is not participating in this game. Even he could have just went out there and just been a decoy. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't even want to be out there and be a decoy. So I don't know the significance of his injury, how bad it is, but I know many people felt that he would be healthy enough to play in the playoff game. But let's think about that. Let's think about that other aspect right there, where some nagging injuries. I'm not about to play through no nagging injuries because college football is not the end goal. The end goal is still going to NFL. And I know this wasn't a Miami-related video, but I do think that it does kind of forecast, in my opinion, some of the things that we have to look forward to, just from a college football perspective, right? And, but anyway, it's all about the you, man. Like, subscribe, share, man. Let me know what you think in the comments.